Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third Middle Mile Advisory Committee of 2025. We are going to hear from Middle Mile program progress, Last Mile grant progress, and just again reiterating the importance of public-private partnership in achieving the Governor's Broadband for All initiative. You're going to also hear latest updates from Caltrans and CDT on how they've been working closely with the RFI partners and the district directors. There's been a lot of progress in such a short order, and we're all focused on meeting the December 2026 completion deadline. I want to thank everyone for attending this very important session today, and we're going to go ahead, and the first order of business is to call roll call. So Ms. Alvarado, if you please call roll.
Thank you. Housekeeping rules statement. Attendees, please note there is time allocated at the end of the meeting for public comment. Presenters, please cue Sam to advance your slides. And committee members, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom to cue the chair to call you to speak. Now, committee member roll call. Chair Bailey Crimmins.
Here.
Secretary Maduris. President Reynolds.
Here.
Chief Deputy Director Peralt.
Here.
Senator Gonzalez. Senator Caballero. Assemblymember Berner. Assemblymember Aguirre Curry.
Here.
Supervisor Alejo. Supervisor Starkey.
Here.
Chief Deputy Director Kiever.
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. All right. Again, great meeting ahead, and I just want to always give the members an opportunity. Is there any members that would like to make any opening comments for the public before we get started? I don't see any. All right. We're going to go ahead and then get started with the first agenda item, which is the executive report out by Mr. Mark Monroe.
All right, good morning, Chair members. Mark Monroe, Deputy Director for at CDT for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, here to provide another update on this important and fast-paced project. We continue to move firmly from the planning and development work we've been doing over the past 4 years to construction. Is there an echo there? Moving to construction. I don't know if that's, all right, can we fix it? I can let's fix that.
We have 2 mics that are hot, so if anyone's logged in, if you could please mute the mic.
All right. Sounds good. So anyway, yeah, we are, as we move into construction of the network, one of the things, we're excited about, as of the end of June, we had taken 3,961 miles of the network to construction. That's an addition of almost 900 miles since the beginning of the calendar year. CDT continues to work with the FFA grant awardees to facilitate connection to the MMBI as we continue to look ahead to operation of the network. And this morning, we'll again be providing updates on our partnerships. We'll also briefly review the special May MMAC we held to hear from some of our RFI Squared partners, and we'll be talking about some important, exciting changes to the process on which CDT and Caltrans have been developing since then. And lastly, we will be providing an update on the status of some of our work as we plan to move forward towards operations next year, including some early revenue generation efforts that are in the works. And that ends my executive report out.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Are there any members that have questions for Mr. Monroe before we go to the next agenda item? All right, I don't see any. So we'll go ahead and go to the second agenda item, where is California Department of Technology. And we have Ms. Mackenzie Shea and Mr. Robert Payne.
All right, very good. Most recently, in terms of our partnerships, these continue to be a really important part of the project. We finalized a partnership with Fort Bragg recently in Mendocino County to do a joint build project. Fort Bragg is doing a last mile project funded with FFA funding and is sharing the construction costs of portions of their network that run along State Route 101 with CDT, benefiting both projects, similar to what we've done elsewhere. Also, I'm pleased to announce that as of this morning, CDT has finalized an amendment to its partnership with American Dark Fiber to construct the state's 128 repeater huts. It's a next and vital part of lighting up the MMBI network. If we can go to the next slide. All right. Briefly, as most will remember, in response to requests from the members of this committee, CDT held a special MMAC in May to hear from CDT's RFI Squared partners. MMAC members presented their company histories, miles of MMBI that are in development, the project status, and progress to date, and discuss some of their experiences, successes, and challenges relative to securing encroachment permits for segments being built on Caltrans right-of-way. Can jump to the next slide. We got to hear from American Dark Fiber, or ADF, Arcadian Infracom, CVN, Hoopa Valley Public Utilities District, LA Bureau of Street Lighting, SysQtel, and YTEL. We were all grateful for all of their insights and their participating in that extra hearing. If we go to the next slide. In response to some of the challenges expressed by partners, CDT and Caltrans have been holding a series of workshops to provide clarity statewide across all districts and to all partners regarding the state's permitting requirements and the quickest way to meet those requirements. Partners have responded by getting virtually all of their remaining permitting miles into Caltrans SEP system. And CDT and Caltrans are now working together to develop and articulate a standardized process for all partners on what we might call the majority of the miles that represent the most common and straightforward segments to facilitate quick permitting and faster movement to construction. CDT is working with partners to articulate the prioritization of the application segments that are in SEPs for each Caltrans district relative to partner construction schedules. And importantly, at the same time, Caltrans is working with partners and CDT to identify which of those segments that partners have entered into SEPs will be the least sensitive and easiest to permit to help partners jumpstart construction. CDT has also developed a shared master schedule so that Caltrans and CDT both can track the progress on what components are needed and when, and what has been submitted by partners and when these are approved by Caltrans. And Caltrans will be providing more detail on the status of these a little later this morning. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Mackenzie Shea, our Regional Business Manager, to provide an update on the status of our partners' installation work, as well as a look at how we are tracking the project rollout. Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Mackenzie Shea, and I'm the Regional Business Manager here at CDT for MMBI. I'll be sharing updates on both the RFI Squared partner progress, as well as an update on the network's operational timeline. Next slide, please. As shown in orange on the map, and as Mark already mentioned, at the end of June, we were in installation on almost 4,000 miles throughout the network. These 4,000 miles include miles delivered by Caltrans as well as our RFI Squared partners. This includes new construction as well as fiber pulls through existing conduits, both on and off the state highway system. Next, I will be going into detail on each RFI Squared partner and the updated progress since the last MMAC for the network. Next slide. The first RFI Squared partner I want to highlight is American Dark Fiber. They are a joint build partner with a little over 900 miles that travel through 30 counties throughout the state as indicated in pink on the map. Of these 900 miles, 500 were recent additions that are still in pre-construction stage, but expect to begin submitting permit applications in the next month. Of the original 400 miles that were contracted last year, 9 out of 10 of those segments are in installation now. As Mark also mentioned, ADF also just signed an agreement to install the 128 network huts, and they plan to start construction in the upcoming weeks on those. Next slide. Arcadian is responsible for a little over 1,000 miles in the state, including routes that traverse from San Francisco to Eureka, San Jose to Truckee, and LA to eastern portion of the state. Arcadian is on the tail end of design and engineering, which includes all of the environmental work needed to clear the way for construction and is currently estimated at 95% complete for that phase. Since the May MMAC, Arcadian, CDT, and Caltrans team members have engaged in sessions where all applications and required components are being reviewed to ensure that permits are issued in alignment with forecasted construction start dates. As of today, all installations are forecasted to be completed by end of 2026. Next slide. Zayo is a joint build partner that is nearing completion on an installation of all 194 assigned miles along State Route 395 in Northern California. They have completed 96% of their conduit install and 22% of their fiber pool, and they are expecting to completely close out their build in Q3 of this year. Next slide. Our next partner is TPN 299. They are responsible for 171 miles along State Route 299 on the map. They've made great strides in installation this year. A major update since the last MMAC is that they've completed the install of all 171 miles and have fully closed out this segment. In fact, they are the first partner to complete all of their miles under contract. Next slide. Bolden is another partner who has made great strides. At the end of June, Bolden completed the construction of all their contracted segments, totaling over 81 miles surrounding the Bay Area. Bolden continues to support the MMBI project as they're constructing various access points for the network, which is due to complete in the next couple of months. Next slide. Our next partner, Lumen, is responsible for almost 1,900 miles with both joint build and lease components throughout the state. Lumen primarily has existing conduits in the ground, so they've been pulling new fiber and making great progress. Since the last MMAC, Lumen has completed installation on 4 additional segments for a total of 8 segments completed overall, which totals over 800 miles. In addition, installation is in progress on 7 of the 20 segments that will equate to another 700 plus miles of fiber in the ground once completed. And then of the remaining 5 segments they have yet to start construction on, they plan to start all 5 in the next 3 months and complete all miles in the 3rd quarter of next year. Next slide. Hoopa Valley is a tribal partner who's responsible for a joint build of approximately 22 miles in Humboldt County along State Route 96. Some very exciting news is that they've received all permits and they've started construction earlier this month. Hoopa Valley is currently forecasting to have all miles installed by Q4 of 2026. Next slide. Waitel is also a tribal partner that represents the Yurok tribe. This agreement consists of 51 miles of leased fiber for 2 routes, as represented by the blue on this map. 48 miles from Oric to Crescent City and another 3 miles adjacent to State Route 96. Waitel just began installation on approximately 27 of those 51 miles from Oric to Trees of Mystery. This section of the route is fully permitted while pre-construction activities continue on the remaining 24 miles with plans to start construction on those in the 4th quarter of this year. All routes are forecasted to be completed in 2026. Next slide. Siskiyou-Tel is responsible for installation of 164 miles of infrastructure in Northern California in Siskiyou County. 31 miles of this build started construction last month, and another 40 miles is expected to start by end of this month. The remaining 90 miles is wrapping up pre-construction and permitting, targeting to have permits in September. Installation is forecasted to commence in the 3rd quarter of this year with completion planned for the 4th quarter 2026. Next slide. Vero is a joint build partner with 26 miles in Humboldt County along the Northern California coast. 1 segment is completed that runs along the east side of Arcata Bay, and the 2nd segment, known as the Trinidad Spur, is an installation and almost 42% complete. CDT has added a third 2-mile segment across the Samoa Bridge on Highway 255 and is currently in pre-construction, expecting to be ready to start in September of this year. All installations are forecasted to be completed in the second quarter of 2026. Next slide. CVIN is our largest partner with over 2,600 miles of infrastructure leased throughout the state. They have both existing infrastructure as well as new construction. Over 1,000 miles is existing, while approximately 1,600 miles is new build. As of today, CVIN is 95% complete with design and engineering, and they have started installation on 34 of the 91 segments, primarily on city and county right-of-way. To get the remaining routes to the installation phase, Caltrans District's headquarter and CDT teams are collaborating with CVIN daily to identify efficiencies that will get them their encroachment permits issued as soon as possible. Next slide. This slide displays in green the Digital 395 network that we purchased from the California Broadband Cooperative. This network operates along the Highway 395 corridor, totaling 423 miles and includes 9 existing huts across San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono counties. Purchase was completed in October, and we are now 72% complete with the documentation transfer, including licenses, deeds, and permits. We are also currently working on hut remediation effort in order to prep the huts for our network electronics. This includes installing new cabinets, installing new power distribution units, and replacing brackets and other items. These remediation efforts are 50% complete. We plan to start configuring and installing electronics in the next 2 months at these huts, which will be the first huts in the network to have electronics. Next slide. All right, Karuk is another tribal joint build partner in the program who will be constructing 2 unique segments totaling approximately 46 miles in Humboldt County. One route is along and adjacent to Highway 101, while the other runs along State Route 96. Both routes are in the pre-construction phase and plan to start installation in the 4th quarter of 2025. All installation is forecasted to be completed by end of 2026. Next slide. Gateway Cities is one of the newest joint build partnerships within the program and consists of 74 miles within the 27 gateway cities of Los Angeles. This agreement was signed in January of this year. They are approximately 95% done with design and engineering, and construction schedules are currently being developed in the upcoming months. This is currently on track to start construction by end of this year and complete by end of 2026. Next slide. Our last partner I'll be discussing today is LA Bureau of Street Lighting. This is a joint build agreement for a 13-mile stretch in Los Angeles that was executed in February of this year. Construction progress has been positive, but they are still in the early stages with about 1 mile installed to date. The LA Bureau of Street Lighting has recently added a second construction crew to help expedite the work on this segment and is on track to complete in 2026. Next slide. This slide highlights the government-to-government partnerships that have recently been executed or are nearing execution of a formal agreement throughout the state. As Mark previously mentioned, the program recently executed an agreement with the city of Fort Bragg. This is a joint build partnership for a 4-mile stretch on Highway 1 through the city. We do have additional agreements and negotiations with various tribes and municipalities at this time. This includes lease agreements for some of our hubs that are being placed outside of Caltrans right-of-way. We are finalizing agreements with 3 tribes as well as approximately 16 municipalities. As we work to complete this network, we will continue to look for ways to leverage government-to-government partnerships to streamline the network build. And with that, that concludes the RFI Squared partnership updates. Next, I'll be covering a few updates in relation to the MMBI operational timeline. Next slide. All right, so in the next few slides, I'm going to discuss what the network looked like in the past, what it looks like today, and what we anticipate it will look like in the future. So touching on what the network looks like today, as mentioned earlier, at the end of June, we were in installation on 3,961 miles. However, of those miles, almost 50% of them have actually completed fiber installation. That means the conduit has been installed, fiber has been placed and tested, and the segment is fully closed out with our partners. While construction is completed, we still keep this in installation status because there is further work that is needed to be done in order to light it up, which I will go into further detail on a later slide. If you look at the map, the purple line work is what has completed construction so far as of June 30th. The orange is what is still in active construction, while the blue is what is in pre-construction and has yet to break ground. The green, while currently not on this map, will be what is operational and ready for customers for lit services. As you can see, there is a lot of activity and progress that has been made in the network, and there will continue to be a lot of activity over the next year and a half. We are very closely tracking the schedule of all 8,000 miles, as well as the huts, power, and electronics. In the next slide, I'll be sharing a short video to give you a glimpse of the transformation the network has undergone from late 2023 to end of 2025. This map represents what the middle mile broadband network looked like in December of 2023. At this time, we were in pre-construction on almost all network miles. As the legend shows, the blue represents pre-construction, orange construction in progress, purple construction completed, and green for being ready to connect or operational. Soon, the timeline will begin moving 1 week ahead, and we will start to see the changes that the network has undergone throughout 2024. In the first quarter of 2024, we start to see some updates from blue to orange to indicate construction starting on both State Route 299 and State Route 395. As the weeks and months continue to go by, the network is slowly growing more and more orange. This represents all of the fiber segments that started construction last year by either Caltrans or one of our various RFI Squared partners. As we reach the end of 2024, over 3,000 miles of the network is in construction as marked by the orange. In 2025, the middle mile broadband network has continued to grow as you see more of the blue turning to orange. We also start to see some segments completing construction as shown in the purple. Now pausing the timeline in July of 2025, this reflects the current state of our network. Half of the network is either in construction or construction completed. As we finish the rest of 2025, the purple continues to expand, and we expect to have almost half the network's fiber miles constructed by the end of the year. In the first quarter of 2026, a large portion of the network's fiber will be installed, including the route from San Jose to Los Angeles, setting the stage for this soon to be fully operational. In order to light up, not only do we need the fiber spans completed, but also our huts with power, electronics configured and installed, and a connection back to the data center. This connection back to the data center is vital, and as a result, we will start seeing the spans nearest the data centers light up first and propagate outwards. In July of 2026, we anticipate the first spans in the network to become operational. The network All right. There was some slight technical difficulties, so that that was not the actual video that we were going to show. It should have ended in 2025. But going from there, the video was supposed to give a history of the network and what we imagine the network to look like by end of 2025. I wanted to note that this timeline is dependent on many factors, including permits being issued in the upcoming weeks and months, construction schedules staying on track, and continued progress being made in the network. Discussing 2026, if we are able to maintain the pace of construction we are currently projecting, then we expect that in the first half of 2026, a large portion of the network's fiber will be installed, including the route from San Jose to Los Angeles, setting the stage for this soon to be operational. As I mentioned in the video, in order to light up the network, not only do we need the fiber in the ground, we also need our huts completed with power, electronics configured and installed, and a connection back to the data center. The connection is vital as we need it for the internet connectivity, so we'll see the spans next to the data center light up first and then propagate outwards. In July of 2026, we anticipate the first spans in the network to become operational, and then based on our current schedule, we estimate that the network will continue to grow and light up throughout the rest of 2026, the last of the network lighting up in December. Next slide. All right, now that I've discussed what our operational timeline is currently looking like, the next item is how this relates to the FFA project areas that intend to connect to Middle Mile broadband network. For some background, there were 59 FFA projects that were awarded by CPUC in round one that indicated in their application that they intended to connect with the Middle Mile network. We have continued to meet with these FFA grantees to determine interconnection locations as well as services they are interested in from the Middle Mile. In addition, we've been working with the FFA grantees to identify their timeline of when they plan to connect to Middle Mile in relation to our operational forecast for their project area. While there are both potential internal and external dependencies that could impact this operational schedule, if we are able to maintain the current schedule as of today, we intend to be operational for our FFA grantees according to the months identified on the map on the screen. The dots on the map represent the FFA project areas, and the colors represent the month of readiness in 2026. We plan to continue to closely monitor this operational timeline for the FFA project areas in the upcoming months to adjust for any changes or impacts to the schedule as we continue to closely coordinate with the FFA grantees. That concludes my updates. I'll now be handing this over to Robert to provide an update on the operations of the network.
Thank you, Mackenzie. As you can see, the team is doing a lot of work. Excuse me, I didn't introduce myself. Robert Payne, the program director for the Middle Mile. As you can see, the team is doing a lot of work in developing and getting the system in place. Along with that, we need to make sure that in parallel, we're working on operations. If I could have the next slide, please. As you're aware, we've had in process a solicitation to bring on board an operator for the network. Let me take just a second to talk about what those tasks would be. Obviously, the monitoring of the network is important, provisioning customer services, much like the FFA services connections that Mackenzie was talking about, as well as future network engineering. This is an investment today, but an investment that we believe will be continuing to grow as the state of California and the residents of California are in new areas. We need to be able to engineer out to those areas as well. Obviously, we want to have a network that is available and so it needs to be monitored for problems. We will be maintaining the electronics as well as the fiber and the huts. So a lot of work that needs to be done. And as you can imagine, we put a lot of effort into putting an RFP on the street. During the last several months, as we were negotiating, it became clear that through the current negotiations, we were not going to be able to reach the point that we felt necessary for the state to move forward. So as you can see on here, the solicitation was canceled this month. That doesn't mean that we're going to lose time. I want to jump ahead a little bit. As you look, we're still targeting operations in July of 2026, and we believe we can make that date. One of the things we're doing right now is revisiting the RFP requirements to make sure that as we move into the next phase of contracting with an operations TPA, that we'll be able to stick to that timeline. I am confident that we'll be able to stick to that timeline and that the cancellation of this particular solicitation isn't going to prohibit bringing up operations as planned. If I could move to the next slide, please. So we talked about focused on several things at the same time. So we talked about building the system while we're looking at putting operations in place. We're also started initial marketing and sales. One of the things that's an objective of this network is to make sure that the network is self-sustaining. And as a part of that, we need to make sure that we are selling not only to the FFA grantees, but also to others that are interested in using the Middle Mile. And so those early sales will create a cash reserve that will allow us to fund the operations of the network. And that's why why it's vital that we're doing that. You can see on here, McKinsey mentioned that we're going to start installing huts in the next several weeks. Very excited about that. And then shortly after that, end of third quarter this year, we'll be looking to install electronics in those huts. The first are on Digital 395, but into the other huts as well. And so that as those electronics are getting tested and brought up, we will be able to branch out from the first parts of the network that are coming up and expand outward. As we talked about before, it's not going to be a big red switch that we flip at the end. It'll be bringing up segments on a as-ready basis, but fully targeted to make sure that the system is operational by December 2026. So thank you, and I will turn it back.
All right, thank you very much for the Department of Technology's update. I would also like to acknowledge a few members that have joined us. We have Trevor Taylor, who is a delegate for Senator Gonzalez. We have Daniel Benaru for Senator Caballero. We have Supervisor Alejo. And we also have Secretary Maduro. So just wanted to acknowledge that before we open it up. A lot of materials, a lot of updates across Department of Technology. And I'd like to open up to my fellow colleagues and members of the MMAC to see if you have any questions, comments for Department of Technology. All right, Ms. Peralt.
Real quick on the, first of all, I appreciate the update about the operations TPA piece and where we're at. I think it's important that we get it right, and if that means that we need to take a moment to figure out if what we had envisioned initially is still the right scope, the right, we're soliciting the right pool of individuals that can obviously operate this well into the future. So I noted that you had indicated obviously some early sales to try to pre-fund some of the cost of the launch, so to speak, for lack of a better word. What is our backup plan? We have, well, two-part question, I guess. One, do we have a sense of what we think those sort of pre-sale, customer base, what that level looks like? I'm assuming we've done some forecasting and maybe have sort of a generalized idea. I get that might not be, real firm. And then, again, this question won't shock you coming from me, but should we not hit that, what is our next steps? If you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. So let me go to the first question. As you would in any sales organization, we obviously have a pipeline. That pipeline currently is about $220 million. Now, that's not committed sales. That is our pipeline, right? We're anticipating at least a 30% uptake on that pipeline, which would create funding necessary for the first part of the operations of the network. Should that not materialize, one of the things that we're doing is, as you would expect with any program, we haven't committed every single dollar that we have in our capital fund. Things arise, you need to have contingency, so we are monitoring and measuring and controlling the contingency as much as possible. And so part of our fallback would be to use some of that contingency for early operations as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, President Reynolds.
Thank you. I wanted to recognize the effectiveness of the presentation. I really appreciated the maps with the color coding and the evolution over time. I thought that was a really effective way to show the progress that has been made. But I also wanted to recognize the information about the 59 FFA projects that are anticipated to connect to the middle mile, and give you my thanks for working closely with the staff at the PUC. I know that has involved and is going to involve project by project coordination. And I just want to take a minute to note that that's going to be time intensive work. I know you're already engaged in it, and it's a big part of what we need to do to really make this real for folks on the ground. And you mentioned that part of it, and it's an important and time intensive aspect of this. And I know a lot of work is going on, and it has been very successful. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, President Reynolds. Any other questions? I see none in the room. Online, I see Assemblymember Aguirre Curry.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I do want to also applaud that. I really appreciated seeing the maps, and a visual says so many things to my constituents as well as my colleagues. So thank you very much. The presentation was very well done. I just have a question on, so you've estimated that the full build out will be completed by the end of 2026. And given that we're running late on getting the approved applications done, are you still confident that we can meet those deadlines for all the segments?
Yeah, as we continue, as part of the workshops we've been doing, we definitely include the RFI Squared partners in that. And so we have not, we continue to look for how do we meet that. That is our goal, and so we're continuing to work for that. And we haven't been, formally informed that wouldn't happen, that they would be unable to meet those goals. And so that's still our target date. That's still what we expect. And as we look at that process, we continue to look at how can we make, what are any other changes we need to make that deadline.
Great. Again, I appreciate all the work that's been done. It's nice to see the progress. I was pretty critical in the past about not seeing results, but it looks like we're going in the right direction. I appreciate the work that you're all doing, and I look forward to having more of these conversations in the future. And thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Any other questions from any members? Ms. Peralt.
I'm sorry, I may be jumping ahead too, so you can tell me if I am, please. I know in the past you guys had created or had provided us in the presentation sort of a chart that indicated how many permits am I jumping ahead to Caltrans?
Yes,
Okay, never
Caltrans will
mind.
be covering that.
I will hold my question.
Excellent question, but yeah, we'll make sure it gets covered. Fantastic. Any other questions? All right, I see none, so we'll go ahead and move on to Ms. Hernandez for the Middle Mile Stakeholder Engagement effort.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for your time. I'm going to give you a brief update on some of our most recent stakeholder engagement meetings, and highlight two recent groundbreaking and celebration events. May I have the next slide, please? Briefly, as a reminder, our target audience for the engagement meetings are advocates or folks who may not have a formal role as part of the project, but have a vested interest or want more involvement and/or transparency. This includes organizations or individuals who may or may not do advocacy as their job, but again, just really want to be informed, have a vested interest, and advocating for communities that often don't have a voice. Typically, agendas for these meetings are sent in advance, in addition to a request for any questions that somebody would like to set in advance, or topics in case they are curious about a specific issue. We can address those in the meetings or one-on-one. When feasible, meaning we've completed our slide deck, we do provide that ahead of time. And following each meeting, we ask for an evaluation that includes open-ended feedback. I have the next slide, please. Our most recent meeting, as with our last report, attendance has continued to wane over time. The primary interests that we heard, areas of interest that we heard at our May meeting, were the desire for pricing certainty, advocating for very low or no cost access to the network for certain providers or communities, and understanding the methodology for how the pricing cap for the federal funding account grantees was achieved. And in addition to discussing that in the meeting, we do always provide for follow-up, sometimes a response to a question or a topic. We don't have enough time in these meetings, or we don't have enough space to answer the questions thoroughly. As you can see, we only had 4 evaluation responses, but based on the feedback we received, we're making some small changes to our meeting format. Moving forward, attendees will have the option to turn their cameras on when asking questions, and we're going to also open the chat function. We've heard from some of the participants they would like to be able to connect with each other based on the questions or the topics that they hear. So previously, these were not enabled. We will do that moving forward. As you can see, or as you know, we have 2 more meetings for the rest of this year. And this is my early invitation for people to prepare for October 31st. There may or may not be a costume contest. May I have the next slide, please? Now I'm going to walk us through some images of our recent celebrations and groundbreakings, both which happen to be in the northern coast communities of California. And these are not just middle mile projects, but also recipients of funding from the Public Utilities Commission. And hearkening back to President Reynolds' earlier comments, this full circle opportunity isn't just about connection. It is community-led planning, it's enabling, it's full circle economic development, educational attainment, health equity. There are so many components to this full circle partnership, and it's really wonderful when we have the opportunity to be in these communities. Most recently, we were in Yurok country. Some of us might know that more familiar as the Klamath area, where the Yurok tribe is installing 51 miles. May I have the next slide, please? Here we got to meet with the first photo, Chairman Joe James of the Yurok tribe. Of course, we know Director Bailey Crimmins, and then Dan Walton, who is the CEO of YTEL, Yurok Telecommunications. We got to hear directly about the full circle process that YTEL is conducting. So they're doing the community-led planning. They have community workforce doing the installation. So we have job training, skills development, and in the words of the tribe, self-determination for digital equity and all that can come with that. Not pictured here, we met with other council members, community members, tribe members, and then this work also extends to the broader rural community. May I have the next slide, please? We, of course, had to do the ribbon cutting photo opportunity. These are always really exciting and especially unique when we get to have the crew who are doing the work. And what was interesting with both this and the next event that I will highlight, many of the folks who are doing the on-the-ground work already were bought in on the value that they were providing to their community. And when we told them that this was part of a broader 8,000-mile network serving communities up and down the state, but truly a critical resilience loop for the North County, the pride that grew even bigger was really special, and I felt really lucky to participate and get to experience that. Next slide, please. We also visited one of our staging areas for Conduit just outside of Klamath. Next slide, please. And then our other groundbreaking event took place in Samoa, California, which is very close to Eureka. This is the 26-mile partnership with Vero Fiber Networks that you heard about earlier from Mackenzie. Next slide, please. At this celebration, coordinated by Vero, we had so many residents from the community, wide group of ages. So we had young people, older adults, people who had been advocating for quite a long time for digital equity and access. And we also had the construction partner Glassroots, who will also be the construction partner for the Hoopa Valley Public Utility District. Next slide, please. Here on the left, we have a local advocate and actual partner for this project. Her name is Connie Stewart. She's a former council member in the city of Arcata and now works with community partnerships at Cal Poly Humboldt. And we got to hear firsthand from her truly the decades of advocacy and partnership, a lot of collaboration. I just want to give a nod to the Public Utilities Commission again, because we got to be up there and hear the work that led to this point. And so it was a lot of investment of public dollars. And in the center, we have Sunita Krishna, who is the CEO of Fiber Networks, who came all the way from Pittsburgh to celebrate, or excuse me, Allentown. Came from Allentown just for this celebration and was thrilled to be there. Again, this is another place where middle mile and last mile are doing the full service. And on the right, we have Arcata Mayor Alex Stillman, who also, in some of our rural communities, you have folks who have been working on these issues for 30 plus years. And so being able to celebrate with them and bring a real timeline for delivery is very exciting. Next picture, please, or next slide. Here, another, again, celebratory picture. We have the interim president of Cal Poly. Again, this is a multi-agency, multi-departmental jurisdiction, state agency collaboration, and I think this is just, you could see the smile on the faces. It says it all. Can I have the next slide, please? And just to close it out, next month, we are scheduled to go up to Hoopa Valley, where we have a joint build partnership with the Hoopa Valley Public Utilities District. This is going to be a 2-day visit where on August 11th, which happens to be the tribe's Sovereign Day, which you can hearken to kind of like the United States 4th of July, we're going to be touring the community, visiting with all of the staff with the utilities district, as well as going across the network route and getting a history of just the history of the Hoopa Valley tribe. And I just want to acknowledge that Linnea Jackson from the Public Utilities District, Hoopa Valley Utilities District, which many of you know, is actually going to be taking that time with us amongst others. And Sovereign Day for the tribe is typically a day of rest because there are a number of activities and events leading up to that day. And she is still making time to host the state of California, and they are very excited to have us. On the second day, we'll have a formal event with speaking and a luncheon with tribal members, the tribal council, hopefully some elders from the community as well. All of you on the Middle Mile Advisory Committee are most welcome. I don't want to speak on behalf of Linnea, but I know she would love to have you there, as would I. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hernandez. And I just want to also commend, all of us can feel the energy and the passion that you have, great leadership on improving stakeholder relations across this important initiative, but really just interacting and making sure that we understand the importance. Sometimes it's easy to get on a project and look at timelines. I know a lot of folks on here, we see PUC, it's always about putting people first. And really, when you see and you walk into the communities and we're there, you can see the importance economically, health, job opportunities. It just is going to open many, many doors, and this is very important for all California. So I just want to thank you very much for all your hard work on this. I'd love to open it up to any members on the dais, if anyone has any comments or questions for Ms. Hernandez. All right, I see none. Any questions or comments? Yes, Supervisor Alejo.
I just wanted to thank you for the updates and obviously the going up to Hoopa Valley. I hope I could make that as well. But there was also another event here on the Central Coast with the Chumash Nation. Could you provide any details about when that will take place?
I don't have a date at this time, but we certainly, as soon as we get a date certain, I will reach out to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments? All right, I see none. We'll go ahead and go to the next agenda item is the Caltrans update. We have Elias Karam and Janice Benton.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Bailey Crimmins, committee members, and others from the public. My name is Elias Karam. I am the Assistant Deputy Director over the Middle Mile Initiative for Caltrans. I will be providing an update on the progress Caltrans is making in its work to support the Middle Mile broadband network. Next slide, please. Together with the Caltrans Maintenance and Operations Deputy Director, we will be providing an update on the progress of the two areas of Caltrans responsibility, the Caltrans build and the issuance of encroachment permits for the CDT partner builds. Next slide, please. The first area of focus will be the Caltrans build. This includes the design and construction of 305 miles of the network on the state highway right-of-way and the design of 107 network hubs. Next slide, please. This slide provides an overview of the Caltrans build in which we are responsible for building 305 miles of fiber. For these 305 miles, we have completed the pre-construction work and they are all in construction. More specifically, 199 miles are in construction, 18 miles are being leveraged as DigSmart opportunities, and 88 miles have already completed construction. Next slide, please. The other area of responsibility for Caltrans is the design of the network hubs. Caltrans is responsible for the pre-construction work of 107 hubs. Of the 107 hubs, Caltrans and CDT are in the final stages of issuing encroachment permits for CDT to begin construction on 14 hubs within the next week. A total of 90 hubs are on target to begin construction by the first week of September. The remaining hubs are on target to begin construction before April of 2026. Next slide, please. During our engagements with the CDT partners, they have voiced several concerns related to challenges they encountered throughout the encroachment permitting process. We have provided clarification and flexibilities regarding the qualifications required for the resident engineer who oversees construction, for surveying the layout for the as-built, so we know where this critical infrastructure is built, and we have made the Caltrans programmatic stormwater permit process available to CDT partners. We also clarified and have provided additional flexibility on the work that can be done using current maintenance agreements. With this final clarification, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Janice Benton, who will provide an update on the status of CDT partner encroachment permits. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, it's up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Karam. So good morning, Chair Bailey Crimmins, committee members, and others from the public. I am Janice Benton. I'm the Deputy Director for Maintenance and Operations at Caltrans. My program includes the encroachment permits, which fall within the Division of Traffic Operations. I will be providing an update on the status of the encroachment permits today. So next slide. To begin, I would like to provide a high-level summary of encroachment permit applications Caltrans has received. So next slide. This update includes the applications we received and their current status. Under preliminary applications, applications in review, encroachment permits issued, and encroachment closed. As we have collaborated with CDT partner on the partner bills, CDT has indicated that they anticipate 3,497 miles of the middle mile broadband network to be installed along the state highway right-of-way. Caltrans has received a total of 2,785 miles of encroachment permit applications. Of this amount, preliminary applications, which is a new group of submittals, has been entered for 849 miles. These submittals include general project details on the county route and anticipated mileage, and have not yet been formally submitted as an encroachment permit application. There are significant benefits to these early submittals that I will share later in my update. The applications for 249 miles are in the application intake step, which means that the applicant has submitted some information and provided draft supporting documents, and a Caltrans team member is doing an initial screening. And for 1,203 miles are in the functional review with active coordination underway between the Caltrans district team members and the applicant. Encroachment permits have been submitted and issued for 480 miles, which means they can go to construction. And for 4 miles, the work is complete and the encroachment permit has been closed. The numbers presented today are from our Caltrans encroachment permit system, also referred to as CEPS. CEPS provides a critical layer of transparency by allowing both Caltrans and the applicant to track the status of applications. Next slide. Caltrans is working with the CDT partners on the encroachment permit applications for the 2,785 miles of the network on the state highway right-of-way. This chart provides a 7-month view of the encroachment permit status for middle mile projects. As shown in the dark blue, Caltrans districts have issued encroachment permits for 480 miles of the network. And this is referenced by the far right column as of July 14th. The 1,203 miles in the light blue is where districts are actively engaging with the applicants to review the submitted information. As noted in the May MMAC meeting, these applications are at varying stages of progress, as Caltrans is accepting all encroachment permit applications for middle mile, regardless of how complete the documentation is. And this is unlike the standard encroachment permit process where all components are required to be included at the time of application submittal. If the documents are missing information or the information does not have enough details for the functional approval, the applicant is notified and the district will work with them until the information is complete. For these, Caltrans needs sufficient detail and information to ensure the integrity of the state highway system infrastructure, such as culverts, bridge foundations, and pavement, as well as other assets that cross the state highway, such as railroads, utilities, and waterways. The yellow section shows applications for 249 miles undergoing an initial screening. And the light pink section at the base of the 800 at the base are the 849 miles with preliminary application information entered into SEPs, as mentioned in my prior slide. This status update is a sign of progress being made, as well as the work ahead of us. Next slide. This next slide provides an update on the status of the encroachment permits by CDT partner. As shared on the previous slide, the breakdown of the SEPs data is preliminary applications, application intake screening, application functional review, and the issued permits. What this slide also includes are the pre-submission miles yet to be submitted into SEPs. Shown in the table on the bottom left, these 712 miles account for projects that have recently been signed agreements between CDT and their partners, or projects utilizing our QMAP process, which I've referenced in past MMAC meetings. These projects will ultimately be entered into SEPs to issue the encroachment permit. And the other category is projects that are still needing clarification as it relates to the state highway system. Next slide, please. These charts show the number of encroachment permit applications behind the miles on the previous slide. The Caltrans teams are actively working with the applicants to advance these applications to final encroachment permit issuance. Next slide. So as we look forward, we want to acknowledge and thank the CDT partners for submitting all or nearly all of their applications and project information into SEPs. As I mentioned earlier in my update, there is significant benefits of the CDT partners submitting their applications, even if it is preliminary information. This will enable our Caltrans district teams to understand the universe of where the projects are in their district. It also allows our Caltrans district teams to assess the planned project locations to either leverage their district knowledge and also share any previous work products. And those work products could be environmental studies or any other work that may have taken place in those areas. This collaboration informs the project prioritization for the CDT partners as well. Ultimately, this collaboration is aimed at helping us identify opportunities as soon as possible to get projects out to construction. One instance of the benefits of the preliminary application submittal is in our Caltrans District 10. The team provided feedback on cultural resources within one of the planned projects. This will help CVIN determine where to split their project limits so they can get certain segments to construction faster. And this is just but one example of the productive partnerships happening across the districts. Additionally, to further inform a shared understanding, as well as to support real-time communication around the encroachment permit requirements and the timelines for milestone deliverables, we are also syncing up all three parties. That includes CDT, Caltrans, and the CDT partners. So we are syncing up all three parties' deliverables into one master schedule. Early indications from discussions with the applicants are we will start seeing a tipping point in September when the deliverables are anticipated to be submitted to Caltrans for final approvals. This schedule reflects the sizable work happening behind the scenes and the work each party contributes to get through pre-construction into encroachment permit issuance. This concludes the Caltrans update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karam and Ms. Benton. Excellent update and progress. I'd love to open it up to any members that would have questions, comments. Look at the dais. Ms. Secretary Maduros.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the presentation. In terms of the recently submitted, I think you had them listed as preliminary applications. Can you talk a little bit about how long it takes generally to go from when, I realize there'll be some variation, but it looks like there's been tremendous progress in terms of getting applications into the system since our last MMAC meeting, and I'm just wondering, you spoke about the September timeframe for seeing sort of potentially a break in the logjam, but can you talk a little bit about how long each of those stages might typically take?
So it's really hard to generalize the timelines. It really is dependent on the information that's being done behind the scenes. As I mentioned, the applicant working on their designs and finishing any studies that they need to complete. And again, the Caltrans district team members are sitting with them and hand in hand and helping them with that process. So if the project is very long, it could take longer because there's more information and documentation required. If the amount of environmental resources that may be out there, whether it's cultural resources or biological resources or any other required, environmental resource to study, that could extend the timeline. So it really is dependent on the location, the geographic location, where they're placing it within the highway footprint, and so forth.
Yes, Chief Deputy Kiever.
Excellent question, Secretary Maduros. I'm just following up on Janice's response. She talked about this master schedule toward the end of her presentation, and this is the benefit of that master schedule, that all of us lay this out tip to tail, so that we can see the entire story, work together to try to find ways where can we compress. And the goal working together is to get as much work in chunks out as early as possible. And so the intent is to create that flow. And looking ahead with the schedules that we're seeing, we're still assembling those. We're anticipating that flow to really start growing in that August to September period.
Thank you. President Reynolds.
I just have a quick question. I really appreciate the presentation. To get a better understanding of that, like those chunks and how things are grouped together, you presented both the number of miles and the number of permits. How is a permit defined? Is it geographically? It doesn't match. Is it not really 1 mile? How do you define what makes 1 permit versus 10 permits?
The applicant will issue or submit that application however they want to bundle up their project. So they can do a bundle of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles, whatever they want to do. It also so they may take into consideration the complexity of that location. And as I mentioned earlier, if there's environmental resources potentially within that, let's say 30-mile segment, they can break up their project into smaller segments so they can clear those locations, get them to construction while they're doing other work. So to answer your question, the project limits are really by application. So the encroachment permit application can vary from 500 feet to 50 miles is kind of what we're seeing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Reynolds. Yes, Supervisor Alejo.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank Caltrans for focusing on this. At the April 18th meeting, many of us, my colleagues, raised concerns about this, and as a result, Caltrans and our team basically became laser focused on this and holding that special meeting in May. I was not able to attend because of scheduling, but I'm glad it took place, and it's great to see the charts that show that we are going to continue to focus on these each month to show the public the progress that we're making on these encroachment permits. Obviously, since April, I think on that chart it showed, I think we had 59 additional miles of encroachment permits issued. I think that's not enough, but it certainly is progress. And as was stated, the September date is when hopefully we'll see a lot more miles of permits issued. But I just wanted to ask a question about the involvement of the Caltrans offices, because that was a concern, right? That was raised in April about different partners having different experiences depending on what Caltrans office they were in. But I think since April, there's been meetings with Caltrans headquarters, district offices to help, I think, get on the same page and help facilitate the permitting process. Could staff just speak to that? What is happening behind the scenes, and how have we brought in the Caltrans offices to better coordinate and address the backlog on the encroachment permits?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So since April, there has been a lot happening. And we had talked about a little bit in April about, we stood up a strike team in headquarters, which was basically the resource for everybody across the districts, but also a resource for each of the applicants. So questions that came up would go directly to that team. We encourage people, don't keep going back and forth on a question, just raise up the question up to the headquarters strike team, and that strike team would work with the functional teams along with the district partners, the districts, to make sure we are all applying and approaching our approach to each of the applicants consistently. The other thing we have continual meetings with the partners that include with Caltrans district teams, with CDT as well, continuing that collaboration, those conversations, those meetings. We've really dived into the details on just about every permit since April. The other thing is, as was mentioned earlier, putting together this master schedule is really going to be the key. We keep being asked, when are we going to issue an encroachment permit, which is a very valid and fair question. But we can't answer that question unless we know more of the details behind that information. So we're sitting down with each of the partners. We've already had the conversations with Arcadian. They're working on their schedule. The teams are coordinating between Caltrans, CDT, and the applicant to share that information, as Mr. Keever mentioned. So we're going to get actual dates of when they're going to submit some of this information to us. And that's really going to be telling on and helping us answer the question on when we can issue an encroachment permit. So I think it's about open communication. It's about transparency. It's about being honest and upfront about, let's all communicate together. Let's solve the problems, get moving on the solutions, and really partnering as everybody together.
And I just want to commend the whole team for doing that, being responsive and attentive to addressing that. I think this is what we wanted to see, and you guys have tackled it. So thank you for all that work.
Thank you, Supervisor. I have a question for Mr. Payne. We've heard a couple times of a master schedule. Obviously, a project of this size typically has a master schedule. So maybe from your seat as the program director, if you could explain what is different and has evolved over the last 30 days, which really is providing a lot more visibility across all the different work streams. If you'd maybe share some highlights, because people are like, oh, you should already have had a master schedule. So maybe highlighting that.
Thank you, Chair. Excellent question. So as you can imagine, a program this size, we've always had a master schedule. What we're talking about now is taking it down to a lower level of detail within the task, putting in some additional subtasks. So working with Caltrans, they've identified an additional 12 subtasks for each of the encroachment permits that will be tracked. So it'll give us more granularity. So we were tracking the encroachment permits as well as, when operations was going to be done, et cetera. So that master plan has always existed. We are adding in additional detail, again, with cooperation with Caltrans. So we'll be working with our partners to get that additional information into the master plan. So we'll have it all in one place. And the nice thing about that is whatever member, whether it be one of our partners, Caltrans, CDT, will be able to go to the same source for what is the current schedule for any one of the components.
Perfect. Thank you for providing that clarity. All right. I'd like, again, to open it up to the dais. Any questions in the room? Any online? Okay. Thank you very much, Caltrans. And we're going to go ahead and go to Mr. Eric Hunsinger from the Golden State Net, our third-party administrator.
Good morning, and thank you, Director Bailey Cremens and MMAC committee members. Appreciate your time today. Next slide, please. So One of the things that CDT mentioned, I believe it was Mr. Payne mentioned earlier, was the attempt to jumpstart some revenue generation on the network. You can imagine that large capital investment by any potential customers, they're making those decisions year or two in advance. So many commercial entities are deciding where and what they're buying for next year now. We have been engaged with commercial entities for over a year and a half, helping them understand what the state is doing and what the opportunity is for their businesses and how they can leverage that infrastructure for their commercial needs, as well as meeting many of the goals of SB 156, providing broadband to communities. So we have been directly working with commercial entities. CDT has been really focused on FFA awardees. We've worked in partnership to help understand how to unlock that infrastructure and make sure that it is available when last mile network is constructed. And the ultimate goal would be to create the cash reserves necessary to create that sustainability. Next slide, please. The majority of topics with commercial entities is dark fiber because there isn't a lit infrastructure yet. That's a little bit planned out in advance, and so it's not due to be lit this year or completely. The complete network won't be lit this year. It'll be towards the end of 2026 when fiber infrastructure is built, then we can light all the segments. So in the meantime, what commercial entities are really interested in is dark fiber. Many of these commercial entities have large bandwidth requirements, and they want to manage their own infrastructure with fiber that they can light and manipulate. So as you can imagine, most of the IRU infrastructure that's being quoted would be a cash upfront partnership, right? So the sale would involve a large substantial investment in the network that they're purchasing, and that reserve would go into a reserve for the network to create sustainability and manage all of the operations and maintenance on the state's own network. Next slide, please. So of the dark fiber commercial entities, we have approximately 125 million in opportunity. There's a slight delta in what was mentioned earlier, but this is because this is very narrowly targeting commercial entities only. It's not FFA awardees, it's not BEAD, it's not lit infrastructure, it is only commercial entities. We've met with over 40 different organizations. We've helped them understand the state's mission. We've also talked to them about how the state's network differs from other carrier network. I think over the couple of years we've been meeting, you've probably heard me talk about mid-span splices and flexibility of design, probably way too much, but this is important to some of these commercial entities because then they can define the network according to their needs, not what is dictated by the carrier provider. The state offers something much more flexible that's not currently in the marketplace. So you have a slight marketing advantage there. So as we work towards developing those relationships, we're working closely with CDT to make sure that we're adhering to the policies and the goals of the program. One of those things is quantity of fiber. We want to ensure that we're protecting fiber infrastructure for SB 156 goals. So none of the infrastructure can be cannibalized for commercial purposes. It'll be available for broadband for the community at large. Next slide. One of the most important pieces of delivering broadband is, of course, lighting the network. And in order to do that, you need to develop a lab. That's generically what it's called. And in that lab, you take equipment that is of the type that you're deploying in the network, and you develop configurations that are specifically tailored to the geography of your network, meaning all of the splices, all of the fiber distances, all of the planned distances between the hubs, all of those things are taken into account. And so the programs lab is housed in the Scenic lab. Scenic has donated that space for the purposes of the program. And here we have two GSN engineers who they're happy, but they look a little tired because they just finished 12 hours of work installing this equipment. I think they finished at 9:30 at night, and that's about as joyful as they could get right there. Anyway, so the next phase is to begin testing out those configurations in partnership with the vendors that are supplying that equipment and begin validating the configuration so that we can meet the deployment schedule. I think it was already revealed that we're planning to light Digital 395 or that 395 route. In addition to that, we want to ensure that the network monitoring systems are compatible and operating with those designs. So all of those things will come into place to ensure that the network is active and reliable. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hunsinger. Any questions from any members on the dais? I see none. Any from members online? Mr. Hunsinger, I don't see any, but I just want to again commend, early on I said private-public partnerships, and GSN's been amazing on the design, the pre-sales, obviously a lab, because at the end of the day, we focus on getting the infrastructure in the ground, but at some point, believe it or not, we won't be thinking about all that. It'll be a very large open access middle mile network that has to run and keep communities connected to the internet. And so your expertise is deeply appreciated. So thank you, Mr. Hunsinger.
Thank you. It's exciting stuff.
Thank you. All right. Our final update is from the CPUC, and we are lucky enough to have Maria Ellis.
Hi, good morning, committee members. Again, I'm Maria Ellis. I'm the the Director for Broadband Initiatives here at the California Public Utilities Commission. I'm going to give you an update on SB 156 multi-year programs and then one of our federal programs as well. Next slide, please. Okay. Part of the CPUC's mission is to deliver programs that fund deployment of safe, reliable, and affordable broadband services across California, but particularly to those that are lacking this essential service. This table provides an update in a snapshot of some of our programs. The Broadband Equity Access and Deployment is our federal program administered through the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. It's currently, California has $1.86 billion available for this program and for the administration, and I'm going to talk about that later in the slide. California Advanced Services Fund includes 6 programs under its banner, and it supports a range of community broadband needs from technical assistance to infrastructure broadband deployment and adoption grants. I want to note that there is now the resolution for the funding levels for each of the accounts under the California Advanced Services Fund was approved, and now we will have at least $60 million for the infrastructure grant account, which will be accepting applications until October 31st of this year. The Loan Loss Reserve Program supports public entity bond financing for broadband projects, and this has been fully awarded to the Golden State Connect Authority for all of the projects that it received under round 1 of the federal funding account. So the federal funding account itself, which you've heard a little bit about today as well from our partners at CDT, supports reliable wireline last mile broadband infrastructure in every county of the state. As a refresher, we finished round one earlier this year in February, all of the awards for round one, and that included 113 grants to 52 out of the 58 counties across the state, totaling around $1.15 billion. We have a limited funding round that was open, which we're calling round two. I know that's very creative, window which closed in June. Next slide. So continuing on with the federal funding account, we're happy to report that we've made progress in the most recent round of federal funding account, round two. Again, this is a limited round because we know that 6 counties in the first round did not receive an award. And so this limited window was targeted to those counties specifically that did not receive an award. And those are highlighted here in white, so you can see them across the state. We closed the window earlier in June, and we received a total of 72 applications and requesting almost $600 million in funding. 35 of these applications that we received in the second round proposed to connect to the state's middle mile broadband network. We're currently in the objection process, and that is an opportunity for stakeholders and interested parties to view grants and file comments, either objecting to an application under review. We're still currently in that phase, meaning that we're continuing to accept information related to rebuttals for objections. We look forward to, this will be probably the last round of funding until then 27-28, when the state budget is slated to provide the state the remaining of the $2 billion, roughly approximately $2 billion that was set aside for this account. That's $550 million. That is slated for the 27-28 budget. And then at that time, if those funds do come to, are appropriated to the CPUC, we would fund one overall grant round, again, one more time, that would be open to the entire state. But I do want to note that very similar to round one, we received more demand than we have available funding for this round. If you looked at all of these counties combined, their total allocations would sum up somewhere around $240 million, $244 million or something in that ball field. And so clearly we've received almost $600 million in funding, so far exceeding what we will be able to support. But we will be looking at all of these applications and that holistic review process that we did for the first round. Next slide. So it was wonderful to hear earlier about some of the groundbreakings that have been happening and events that have been happening around some of the great work resulting from SB 156. And I too want to share a little bit about that. This highlights some of the exciting groundbreaking events that have taken place since the last MMAC meeting. The blue symbols on the California map represent groundbreaking events for new construction on last mile projects. There have been groundbreaking events for new construction of FFA projects from Humboldt County up top all the way down to Los Angeles. The bolded section headers here on the right are the grantees whose projects have successfully broken ground, at least some of them that we're highlighting here. Specifically, the California Broadband Alliance and SurfNet held an event for its 3 county fiber CASF and federal funding account projects in Santa Clara County. In May, Pluma Sierra Telecommunications celebrated 11 projects in various stages of construction in Plumas County, including some projects now providing service. Their fiber networks celebrated a middle mile construction and private investment project in Humboldt County, which we've heard about. Also in June, Gateway Cities Council of Governments held an event in Compton to celebrate the joint middle mile build and the last mile federal account project. Federal funding account project, excuse me. And finally, we are pleased to highlight the URAC Telecommunications Corporation middle mile and last mile projects in Humboldt and Del Norte communities that will be celebrated later in July here. We attend many of these as we can, but also keeping quite busy with this current round of funding and also BEAD, which I will update you on shortly. Next slide, please. So always happy to see smiling faces when it comes to these projects. So along the top of the red ribbon, you can, with the red ribbon, you can see this is an image from the Gateway Cities Council of Governments project in City of Compton. The City of Compton will be the first location to receive last mile fiber to City Hall and eventually connect all 24 City Halls within that project area to each other via the middle mile network. The image on the bottom left includes CPUC President Alice Reynolds and Deputy Executive Director Ana Maria Johnson. We attended the Pluma Sierra Telecommunications event for their 11 projects. And finally, the image at the center along the bottom includes Communications Division staff and CASF and federal funding account. This is a joint project that kicked off with the California Broadband Alliance and its partner SurfNet. One project that I was really pleased to go to, a groundbreaking, a celebration event that I was pleased to go to, which is not reflected here, is for the California Advanced Services Fund line extension program. The CPUC completed a project funded by the line extension account, which provides 1 gigabit symmetrical service to low-income farm worker communities in San Benito County. The project now serves 192 households with approximately 740 residents, of whom 130 are school-aged children. So this was really important for their school learning opportunities. Next slide, and my last slide. So now we just want to talk a little bit about the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, otherwise known as BEAD. As many of you may be tracking, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, which is the federal agency that leads the implementation of this program across the country, issued on June 6th what is called a BEAD restructuring policy notice, and it made pretty significant changes to the program. In accordance with the changes, which included a variety of things, including getting rid of mostly it got rid of lots of provisions within the existing program as outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity and outlined in our initial proposal volumes that were approved by the Commission. It wholesale got rid of entire sections related to workforce, consumer protections, low income or low cost plans. It also made changes to what could be considered a priority project and the technology tiering that was represented in the original Notice of Funding Opportunity. So we've been working through some of those changes and updating our own program design to comport and comply with these federal new rules that have been approved. So in accordance with NTIA's BEAD restructuring policy, the CPUC has revised the program, which we have named BEAD 2.0, just to try to keep it as simple as possible for folks. The table on the right of the slide has been updated, has dates for the BEAD program 2.0. The California applicant pre-qualification period closed yesterday. Actually, we kept that open for another week. That was part of the mandate, is that you have to go out and reopen your pre-qualification and also reopen another round called the Benefit of the Bargain round. So our pre-qualification closed yesterday, and we will be opening the Benefit of the Bargain round on tomorrow, on Saturday, July 19th, and applicants will have until August 2nd at 6 p.m. To submit applications. All the materials and pre-qualifications have been revised application materials and information and FAQs and many resources as we could have been updated to the website to reflect the program changes. And of course, we will be continuing to hold office hours through the project window, application window, to help answer as many questions as we can. We had a webinar last week to help people understand the restructuring policy notice and what that means in terms of the changes to the program. And while we were sitting here, the team also had another webinar specifically to the project application and program design elements. And I'm happy to answer questions as I can about this program if there are. But we are in a very fast timeline. The restructuring policy notice did establish for the entire 56 states and territories that received a BEAD award, it established a 90-day window by which all states and territories had to submit their final proposal to the NTIA. That is September 4th. And so the policy notice came on June 6th, 90 days, September 4th. The commission today will be, those states have petitioned. At least one state that we know of has petitioned for a modest extension. NTIA is reticent at this time until some milestones are hit. Specifically, have you opened your window? Have you, where are you at in your process to formally award an extension? But we, the state of California, will also be seeking one extension modest to our original due date, which is October 2nd, and we will issue that today.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Excellent update. I will open it up to the dais to see if any of my colleagues have any questions or comments about CPUC's update. How about online? Is there any questions online for the members? All right, I see none. So we are going to go ahead and shift to public comment. Oh, first, I'd love to, overall, is there any questions on any of the presentations that anyone had? Just want to make sure that members have an opportunity. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to public comment. I also just want to remind, public comment, again, as a reminder, just is a statement. If you have questions, there are means to actually get questions answered. Just when people ask questions in public, we are unable to respond. So just want to make sure that that's clear. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Alvarado to give some housekeeping and just kind of how to engage with us on the public comment process.
Thank you. In order to ensure everyone who wishes to make public comment has the opportunity to do so, we respectfully request one person per entity and 2 minutes per person. The order of public comment will be online public comment submissions prior to the meeting, Zoom hands raised, and phone hands raised via *9. We have not received any emailed comment submissions prior to our meeting, so we will start with public comments in the room and then via Zoom.
Does that mean I can talk? Yeah, I'm Ben Hewlett. I'm with Sierra Nevada Communications, and we're a last mile provider. So we're the guy that links middle mile to the end customer who we're all trying to help. And just had a couple of, first of all, I just want to thank all of you for what you're doing here. We've been serving our 1,200 customers with wireless backhaul. That just doesn't work as good as fiber. So we're quite excited about the middle mile. And we're very proud to be a FFA Round 1 winner and very proud to be looking up to middle mile. Question though, we still have issues with permits. And with regard to Caltrans, I've heard that, well, we have a lot of aerial routes that we're going, and we're gonna have to replace poles. And just correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard that Caltrans doesn't approve replacement poles if it's in the Caltrans right away.
We're unable to respond to questions during public comment, but we would be happy if you want to go ahead and ask those questions maybe afterwards or from the different groups. Want to make sure.
Just, we can take note, we can
take
capture the
note,
questions,
yeah.
and we'll make sure to follow, we'll make sure.
Okay,
that-
so I can't ask a question.
You can ask, and we'll make sure to follow up with you, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I would like to know if we can put in replacement poles within Caltrans right away. And all of the, well, our last mile applications in that master plan that they were talking about for the middle mile, do they include last mile applicants in that same type of treatment? So I would like to hear that. And I assume most of the encroachment permits that they're talking about here is primarily all underground. I'd like to know how much of that is aerial, if at all. So I guess those are questions that will be answered later. Anyway, regardless, thank you, all of you.
Good morning, council members and state partners. My name is Patrick Messick, and I serve as the director of Oakland Undivided, a collective impact digital equity initiative in the East Bay. I want to begin by thanking CDT for its continued partnership and for the significant progress made towards deploying the statewide middle mile network. In Oakland, this middle mile investment is directly enabling the city's FFA Last Mile project that will connect thousands of residents in our highest poverty neighborhoods with free and low-cost service for years to come. We are deeply grateful. But this not-so-distant future will only be possible with your vigilance. A network only matters if people can afford to use it. If middle mile pricing replicates the private market, sure, we'll have miles of state-funded fiber and millions still left offline, priced out by the status quo. This council must grapple with a core question. Will California's middle mile network be priced to generate the highest possible revenue or to enable the highest possible impact? We understand the need for the network to be self-sustaining, but that imperative must not come at the cost of this historic investment's intended purpose. FFA Last Mile projects, many led by municipalities, public agencies, and community providers, are racing to finalize designs and begin construction in areas that private ISPs have deemed uneconomic and abandoned for decades. These projects depend on affordable backhaul to remain viable long after federal dollars are exhausted. Preliminary information indicates that the network users will be capped around 12 strands, or less than 5% of the segment's capacity. And FFA projects only access a tiny portion of the 8,000-mile network. In Oakland, for instance, our project seeks access to 12 strands along an 8-mile stretch of MMBN. That's 5% of the segment's capacity along 0.1% of the total network, or just 5/10,000ths of the MMBN's network capacity. Affordable access is not a fringe request. It's essential if we want the network to sustainably serve the unserved, the disconnected, and the hardest to reach. I urge the council to join us in calling on CDT and the third-party administrator to continue deep partnership with the FFA Last Mile projects and to set pricing and terms of use that truly unlock the promise of SB 156, especially for those who have been left behind the longest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messick. Not seeing any other speakers in the room, we will go to Zoom for any speakers. I see one hand raised, Connie Stewart.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give a big shout out to all of the staffers. I'm Connie Stewart from Humboldt County, and I just wanted to thank everybody for making the trip up for the grand opening. It means a lot to communities when staff comes. So thank you, Mark, and your whole team. It was wonderful to have you all there. Thank you, Chair. It was wonderful. And I just wanted to also just tell you how much I've enjoyed this meeting. And I just am really glad that you are starting to focus on the operating and maintenance portion of this. I want to just give you a shout out at Cal Poly Humboldt. I recently had to make a decision on getting dark fiber on the network because a lot of these are joint builds. The state is going to be up against corporations that can move very quickly on determining price and contracting for joint builds. I am very aware as a regional person that money is necessary in order to get more service out to smaller communities. But I was really stuck with the choice, right? So I signed a 5-year contract for almost $1 million recently, because it only took me one phone call to be able to figure that out. So I'll have more money. And I would really love to give it to the middle mile. So anything you can do to have that third party be nimble enough that it's easy for the non-commercial folks who may have money that are looking for fiber or dark fiber connections. I just implore you to think about that as you're designing this, especially as universities, we have funding. Some of the industries do as well, and we would love to participate in the middle mile. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're all doing.
Thank you, Connie. That being our last speaker, Director.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. Again, a wonderful Middle Mile Advisory Committee, and just thank you for everyone that provided public comment. As always, I always make sure that the members have an opportunity to make any additional last-minute comments before we close. Just want to give an opportunity. Anyone have? Secretary Maduros.
I would just thank everybody, particularly at CDT and at Caltrans, for all of your work. I know it's been a tremendous effort over the past couple of months to try to reset the timeline of this and bring us back on track. And I just appreciate the huge efforts, and I'm looking forward to our subsequent meetings when we'll start to see those permit approvals and see the network actually come to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Any other comments? All right, anyone online that are members? Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, committee members. Thank you, presenters. Thank you, attendees. A lot of contribution. We're all focusing on broadband for all. Our next meeting is Friday, October 17th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone in October.